Today we're going to be going on and covering something that I believe will be very important for everyone here, near and dear to y'all's hearts, and that's headcanoning.
Yeah!
Woo! So, my name is Xavier, also go by CC Chariot. You may have seen me yesterday as Fairy Godmother, so very different look going on today. But today we're just going to be going over headcanoning, a lot of ideas, primarily why do we do it? Because for me, I found it interesting because it's something that's always been a big part of fandom culture, but never something that's never specifically addressed as to, hey, why do we all just do this by default? And first, I just want to ask, everyone here knows what headcanoning is, correct?
Yes.
That's great. I'm still going to go over something, just basic stuff here, just in case. So, it's actually very easy just to see it visually. Headcanon, it's perfectly split between 50-50 of, hey, we have the canon, which is the literal events and true facts of how whatever happens in a story, the sanctity and the continuity and whatnot. The other half being, it's in your head. You can imagine anything. I made it up. So,
True.
I just want to go over and first just kind of lay the land of this audience. What are some of y'all's headcanons? You can raise your hand and I'll come up and pick some of you guys to come up here. I'll pass the mic. You guys can say what you want. Again, pretty much anything is on the table. You're shaking your hand pretty hard.
Me and my friend made this headcanon for Gangle from the Amazing Digital Circus that she's a Red Bull drinker.
Ooh, okay. Okay, that's actually a type that I was thinking about here. Some of favorite foods and drinks. That's a pretty good one. That's fun.
I thought so.
That's good. Love that. I see Gray Vest over here was raising his hand a second ago. What was that?
Yeah, so I like Love and Deep Space, and my headcanon is that Dr. Zane is actually my platonic best friend, just not getting the signal that I'm not into him like that.
I see. I don't know much specifically about Love and Deep Space, but from every other person I've talked to, you seem to be the only person that's looking for something platonic in that. Like, I've never heard anyone else have that intention. Alright, you in the hat over there.
Many characters in My Hero Academia are autistic.
Ooh, okay. Autism representation will be discussed heavily in this. Pink over there.
Wolfwood from Trigun.
Okay, yes.
Latino, specifically Cuban, but any Latino actually.
Okay. Any form of Latino from Wolfwood from Trigun. That, big fan of that one. That's very fair. I see you in the back, orange hair.
Shiro Emiya from Fate Stay Night. In the Fate Grand Order timeline, he is the older brother to the protagonist in that game.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Cool. I see you over here.
See a big headcanon that Shadow the Hedgehog loves Latinas.
Ooh! True. Here, I see white, purple shirt. Yes, you. Yeah.
The main characters in K-On! Are angels.
Ooh, okay. Interesting. Like that. Very interesting. And anyone else that has a specific thing they want to go over? If not, more than happy to roll through. See you. Yeah.
Camille Badon from Troublesome Zeta Gundam is a heavily closeted trans woman.
Ooh, okay. That will also be discussed. We'll be going over a lot of different potential headcanons regarding sexualities, gender, etc. So I love that you're bringing this up now. So, just to go over here, I'm actually going to be talking a little bit about one that I hold pretty near and dear to my heart. You may have seen just from my background earlier, I'm a big fan of Kingdom Hearts. My big one is that Roxas from Kingdom Hearts is trans, very specifically non-binary, and that generally the Organization 13 is allegorical of the trans experience. Now, that's a whole lot of words that were just spewed out very quickly. So, just to quickly go over, I've accidentally took you all into a Kingdom Hearts lore panel for like maybe 5 minutes. I will be as brief and succinct as possible. So, alright, now going over here. Every person in Kingdom Hearts has both a heart and a body. The heart basically acting as your soul, the body being the physical thing, usually representing the mind and your will. When you die, or are just generally pulled into darkness, you literally will become a heartless. And if you have some form of really strong willpower, your old husk body will be turned into what's called the nobody. And if you're really, really strong with your will, you get to keep your original human form. That's what the Organization 13 is. And again, as they are literally without a heart, they are generally perceived as not having a heart and no emotions, etc. And one of the other big things when you enter Organization 13, you take your old human body, like the name with it, and you just kind of shuffle the letters around and you add an X to it. That's just generally how that goes. It happens with Roxas here to Sora, Lee to Axel. There's many examples of this. So, in general, what does this have to do with transness? Well, a lot of it, specifically for Roxas and technically by extension Sora, there's a lot of stuff going on with dead naming and being used and taken advantage of for your specific traits and how other people perceive that. Many characters will refer to Roxas as Sora and Sora as Roxas purely from the perspective of wanting to use them for their capabilities and for just who they used to be, quote unquote. So again, you can definitely draw some parallels to there. The other big one, there's a lot of dehumanization by overall society in the Kingdom Hearts world for Roxas and organization in general. As said before, they are perceived as not having emotions. And generally, they still act like they do, but people act as though that is manipulative and they're taking advantage of you if you try to say these things and pretend you have emotions. You can make a lot of parallels to not just trans community, but a lot of different minority groups about this because, hey, if you're being dehumanized, any appeal to emotion is seen as fake and taking advantage of. It is a thing to be fearful of, that appeal to emotion. And the other part of that that's funny, you find out later in the series that these nobodies and organization members can naturally still have hearts due to being around other people and making friendships and all that stuff. So again, it is just factually untrue. The other funny one, the main villain, Xemnas, acts as a sort of grifter type that feeds on this desire to be accepted. Literally the big thing for him is, hey, all of you can become human again if we build Kingdom Hearts. And I'm going to use this and lord it over you to say that you will never be a whole person and accepted by people if you don't do this for me. In this analogy, you could almost argue that this man is saying, you will never pass until you do this for me. And the other big one, this is more specific to a cultural standpoint, the Japanese X-gender. That is generally perceived as a designation for those that are either non-binary or trans in general. So when these characters are then introduced into the organization, they are taking their old name, moving things around, and adding an X to it. You could technically make a pull from there if there's some correlation. Now, do I believe that any of this was intentional by the writers, Tetsuya Nomura, and everyone there? No, absolutely not. No. Like, I think that the entire cast and the team and all that, they were writing a story that was going to be tragic and relatable to kids and teenagers that feel excluded from society, that don't feel like they're being understood by those around them. But by extension, the LGBT community and possibly other minority groups are going to relate to this experience a lot more and will transplant their experiences onto these characters in the story because they live through ostracization and thus can relate to it more heavily than the average person. And I say this as I have grown up with the series when it first started in the mid-2000s. Do not call me old. I am old. Do not call me Unc. That is mean. No. I was much too young going on the internet in, 2006? I was like 5 years old. I should not have been on there. But I was there and seeing a lot of, in particular, gay fan fiction between many of the characters in Kingdom Hearts. And I think that what I just said was a big part of the reason why the gay community especially got into it, was because these themes were held so strongly within that community, and as such, transplanting that even if it wasn't necessarily truly there in the text. Now, so again, I know I just gave a bit of my stuff here, but again, why am I even running this panel? Many of you already said some of you had said your headcanons. I imagine many of you have your own personal explanations for why you feel that way. So why discuss this? Well, again, I just said I was on the internet for a very long time. Around that 2006 period, and since being on there, I have been able to see a lot of shifting occurring with how fandom spaces operate over the years. And the big one I would say, in terms of this discussion, was during the COVID pandemic. And when this occurred, we had a massive amount of influx of people coming in through different social media apps like TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. I'm not calling it X, it is Twitter.
Yes.
And so
You're
going through that.
headcanoning in his tweet.
Yes, I'm headcanoning in his Twitter, correct. Yes. It's all in here. So, people had nothing better to do. And there were very few ways to actually interact with a lot of other people. So, a lot of people entered the fandom space as ways to communicate with one another and really get involved in a culture, as it were. And at a base level, this is a good thing. People were interested, and hey, this means potentially more series can start up, more money is going into these industries, and more perspectives and opinions about different things. But that's not necessarily how everything went, because having this massive influx of people that were not familiar with the space meant that it gets flooded, and sort of the rules and decorum of these different fandom spaces that have been cultivated over the years started to be lost a bit. For my personal sake, I was seeing many instances of people just not really understanding headcanoning in general. You would have instances of people drawing characters, not based particularly on the source material, say drawing them different races or different ethnicities, or saying that they're trans or autistic or something like that. And you would have a lot of people that would go online and say, why are you doing that? That's not what they look like. That's not what they, how they are written. And when people would take this sort of by the book approach to fandom, that it felt like if you were going to create something, it had to be strictly within the guidelines of what was already made previous. They would treat the source material almost as a Bible, in that you were not able to stray without receiving some form of ire. And to give a little bit of a visual of these different types of people in the space, I've made this little Punnett square here. So, we can see here, top level, we have the level of creative freedom and whether or not you are only caring about the source material. And then on the left, we have the interest for viewer creation in relation to that source material, and none. Obviously, for our sake, the headcanoner, they're willing to do whatever they want to do. They will shift and form this character or story to whatever they see fit, because they care about it in that way. The what if scenario debater is a funny one, where I think a perfect example of it would be, there is a short manga series. It's an isekai, don't roll your eyes. And it is primarily about a guy entering the world of Dragon Ball, but he is forced to be Yamcha. And the thing is, he has read all of Dragon Ball, so he knows where the story's going, but now he has that perspective and is able to say, okay, I need to lock in and train so I don't get left behind. So it becomes a new what if story of what if Yamcha actually tried? And it's genuinely interesting to see different perspectives on how that would go. But it is still something where it's pretty grounded in that original source material, which is why I kind of set it as its own separate thing. You have the original content creator, that's just, hey, you're a writer, you make your own thing, that's awesome. There's going to be influences from other series and things you care about, but it's not going to be this sort of somewhat based in another product. And that last one in the corner we'll be getting back to later in this panel, because it'll be important for a bit of a dichotomy with the headcanon specifically. So, going over all that, again, I feel like I'm going all over the place here, but let's look at some of the specific instances and examples for why we headcanon. And at the heart of it, from discussion and seeing with a lot of other people is about identity. And there's a lot of different key identifiers that you can have. You know, I have a couple of them up there: race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, disability, a lot of these different things that can be identifiers for different people. And when this happens, you know, from the many people I've discussed all of this sort of thing with, either online, in person, at conventions even, there is this sort of, how should I say this? You want to have a certain level of relatability to characters in order to really be invested in them. You want to care about them, so you want to see yourself in them. And there is very rarely going to be an instance in a story where a character is literally you, unless it's a self-insert. And doesn't matter if like TikTok or Instagram or anything like that tries to tell you, do not listen to these literally me type archetypes that people talk about all the time.
That's literally me.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I'm looking at, you're doing Homestuck, right? I don't see any gray Homestuck up here right now.
My kid list.
We are, kin list is a whole other topic that we could get into, but this is all to say, we will see characters that have similar thoughts and experiences as us, but not necessarily the same identity as us. So when we see these characters that go through and act in similar ways as us, but not the same justifications for it, we try to do the headcanon as bridging the gap between the two of them. You'll shift around some of the things like, oh, I've lived my experience as a Latino, so I know how that feels. And hey, in the instance that was said earlier about Wolfwood, whatever his experience in the show is like, for that person, it seemed to be similar to them as a Latino person. So, hey, they're going to make that connection. They're going to think, hey, I think of him as Latino, even if he's not necessarily even is. So, I actually have some examples here. So these are a couple of characters that I have seen over the years that generally get seen as autistic, whether it's by, a lot of the time it is by their general behavior and how they operate and how they connect with other people. So first one, Kiryu from Yakuza. So Kiryu, and I'm gonna just rapidly go through these and explain at the end. Other one, Mob. So, we also have Jotaro. And lastly, Lio. So, all of these characters I have seen I heard someone say, I want that man. Like, I see. Honestly, fair. But in general, I have seen over the years people describe and think of these characters as autistic and headcanon them as such because of the way they operate and act and talk with other people. For, say, Kiryu and Jotaro, a lot of that comes down to this, like, stone-faced, like, stoicism and what gets perceived as an inability to truly connect with people on a conversational level. But due to the actions and what they generally do in their stories, they show obviously that they do care about people and a lot of these different things. They're just not doing it in a traditional manner that most average people are going to see as directly average and gets perceived as autistic. Again, similar thing here with Mob. There's a whole lot that can be said about him and why he gets headcanon as such. And similar to Lios having that sort of disconnect, though he doesn't have as much of that stoicism. It's just that he's very one-track minded on the one thing he truly cares about, which, of course, food. But in particular for Lios, he's really funny because people have asked the mangaka for Dungeon Meshi, did you intend for him to come off this way? Did you intend for him to be perceived as autistic? And at the time, she said, no, that wasn't the intent, but if that's how people perceive, then okay, like they're not gonna shut you down on it, but that's not the intention at all. And I'd say it's very interesting how the sort of disconnect with the creator, because sometimes you'll have instances where they're very accepting of it or they are vehemently against a headcanon. I have a couple of examples that are more leaning towards the positive end of it, and what I'm going to be calling when the headcanon becomes real. which everyone, I would hope and imagine everyone here knows what One Piece is, correct? Or at least to some extent. So, in particular, Monkey D. Luffy. For a very long time, people generally perceived him as being some form of Hispanic. Whether it's... Who said truth nuke? Love that for you. So, at one point, again, Oda was asked at some point, if One Piece were to exist in the real world on Earth, what would the different characters, like in the main plot, be ethnically? And one of the big ones in particular was saying that Luffy was, in fact, Brazilian. There are, and later we would even get in the live action of him being played by a Mexican actor in Iñaki. And that was another instance where Oda was very heavily involved and signing off and approving that is exactly who Luffy is. That's what he looks like. That's how he sounds. That's what he acts like. So this sort of became real for people of, hey, they saw him like this and creator more or less signed off on it. Another one tying back over for JoJo was with Dio Brando. Araki at one point stated that Dio Brando was androgen, which, if you don't know what that is, it is a form of non-binary, more leaning specifically to androgynous, which, given that this is specifically talking about Dio during that earlier period, definitely fits the bill. But another instance of starting to fill in the gaps and leaning towards, hey, this is what people are thinking, I'll confirm this, or this was the intention. Now, another big part about headcanoning and why people do it is representation. So, I'm going to preface and give a little bit of background about me here. I am a Cuban, Puerto Rican, gender fluid, bisexual dude with ADHD. Though I know I am also very white passing, especially with all this clown makeup on. But I'm saying all this because when I watch shows and play games and stuff like that, I don't necessarily see myself represented too often with everything here. There's definitely a couple of them that are hitting on some of these, but not all of them, which again ties into what I said earlier. You're never going to find a literally me character, but it is difficult and upsetting to not see that all the time. And the other part of this is why I'm bringing this up. It's because I'm about to talk about some things with different backgrounds of different races and ethnicities that are not my own. And I'm bringing this up because I think it's important to discuss this in the terms of headcanoning. So, excuse me, I have a whole lot that I could talk about here in regards to representation. So, would it surprise any of you, because I know some of you said it, that sometimes people headcanon characters as different races and ethnicities than what they were originally written as? No? That makes sense. And it is true. And usually it's done for the simple reason that there just isn't that much representation for certain minority groups in shows, games, or whatever the medium may be. That's just the reality we live in. One of the easiest examples to talk about for this is like black people in anime. That's probably one of the easiest ones to mention, which obviously, despite the fact that anime is pretty much at the height of popularity right now, especially here in the West, and a very large chunk of the Western anime viewing audience is black, I would wager a bet that for picking any individual person here, it would be difficult to pick out and name like 15 canonically black characters. This is not a challenge, but I'm just saying that it is difficult. And there have been big strides and changes over the years. I mean, most recently, I know, Gachi Yakuta has many, many characters of different ethnic and racial backgrounds that are rarely seen. So there are things being done about it, but people are still going to headcanon and see characters as different races than what they were originally seen at or written as. And I think it's pretty cool when this happens. I think to generally give a basic example here, we're going to go over the one that most people know, which is Piccolo. So, I would say this is probably the one that is most generally seen and recognized that despite the fact that Piccolo is a literal green alien from Namek, that people see him as a black person. Now, there's a lot of reasons for why this happens and why people see him like this. I would say that chief among them is his role in Dragon Ball. Like, Piccolo is the only member of the direct Z fighters that has a different skin color. Like, outright. Everyone else is having some form of beige to Asian adjacent skin color versus him literally being green. And this isn't to be like the team isn't necessarily ostracizing him or anything like that. It is just a visual cue that you can see that he is going to be perceived as an other by default, which for a lot of black kids and just black people in general watching the show, it becomes an innate thing that you can see, like, and sort of relate to, because in the generalized white America, you, even if you were not being ostracized and seen as an opposition, you're going to be seen as an other, which just happens a lot. So, especially black children noticed this growing up and thus conflated the experience and just implanted that onto him. There's other reasons too. There's stuff about how Piccolo is generally a very stern, self-serious character versus the rest of the Z team, where you have Goku and Vegeta and whatnot that are very eccentric in different ways. So to them, they perceive it as your stern father figure type, which goes along with how he raises Gohan, and just a whole lot of these different things layer and add up over time for that perception to be instilled and made over the years. And I would say, I'll also say this, that most of this explanation that I'm giving isn't necessarily new information. A lot of this actually came from various quotes from a memoir literally called Piccolo is Black. Let me pull that up here. From Jordan Calhoun, which is a direct memoir discussing the black experience within the pop culture scene and how those things interconnect. And tying into what I was saying earlier, do I think that Toriyama intended to write a black-coded character? No, I don't. I think he wanted to write a character that represented that feeling of separation from those around you, like having that difference of culture and belief system, and having to still work together for the greater good in whatever the situation may be. And for black people in America, they saw themselves in that. They saw, hey, even if I'm not being seen as an against, I'm still seen as an other. So I would say and hope that seems like a relatively reasonable explanation for why people see it like this. But you would not believe how much rage and vitriol I found when researching this topic. Because I generally just assumed and saw so much of this statement that he was, that I thought, oh, there wouldn't be that much opposition to it. But no, I found many Reddit threads, many Twitter posts, many, like even some articles that were very antagonistic and blatantly just outright against the idea at all. And at first it seems like, dollar store internet bigotry, you talk about any sort of minority group in a neutral to positive light, you get every, racist person known to man to say something. But what happens here is that that's not all it was. I did start to see a lot of specific instances of people saying and calling upon the author and canonicity to go against it, saying that Toriyama was a Japanese man that had little to no interaction with black culture, and that why would he write a black-coded character, which, whenever these discussions happen, it was primarily under the guise of headcanoning and codedness, and generally vibes-based discussion. So why does it have to be a direct statement and calling upon the author to confirm this? And again, to me, it seemed as a complete misunderstanding of what headcanoning was. And it was, working on this, it was hard to articulate the why, but it kept coming up over and over and over again. And it wasn't necessarily just about this topic. One of the other instances I saw was the recent, not even recent now, but, K-pop Demon Hunters.
Woo!
So, a lot of discussion was had at the time of its release and a little bit after about main character Rumi being, closeted or being mixed, and that was the, representation and connection with the being half demon and feeling like you can't talk about it and you'll be ostracized, etc. There were many people that were like, no, that were unwilling to have a discussion about it because it was never directly stated. And only afterward, when various art books came out with the staff saying, yes, that was the intention, was that now a talking point that could be made in these circles. So it's just this sort of thing of, unless the author says something, then it's just, why would we talk about it? And again, this actually ties over to that last piece of this Punnett Square, which is that I believe that those that are at the direct opposition of headcanoners are power scalers. So, that may sound funny. That may sound very funny, but I do have a little bit of an explanation for this. And that is, those that power scale generally talk in what they perceive as facts. They look at a story, they see characters, and they see statistics. If you ever go on like a Death Battle wiki or something like that, you will see the charting system of, oh, this character is building level, planet level, galactic level, etc. But these people also, to an extent, will take it to the full story level, where a story is now a list of facts and events that have occurred, and that the idea of headcanoning is now just not something that they're willing to engage with, because why would we? The author didn't say it, so why would we talk about it? And to me, it reads as this, because it's antithetical, it reads as just being willfully ignorant and unwilling to engage in the wider scope of art, and instead treating it as, almost like just athleticism and just, because I look at slander posting, I know about this stuff, it's fun. People yelling and screaming about, that's my goat, oh, he's washed, low diff. It's fun. And I'll be completely honest, I also like doing it. Slander is a fun thing to partake in, and I admit I get way too invested sometimes. The most recent example I could think of was the Reze Arc Chainsaw Man movie came out. So, at the time, after the movie came out, I was on Twitter, and for probably about 2 to 3 weeks, every 2 hours, there was an ongoing argument over Reze and Bakugo, because similar explosion-based powers. So every day there would be some form of argument, like rage and screaming and screaming and screaming about, that who would win. Like, that specific guy in particular, Wander Jackson, he quite literally every hour had a new comic. He was furious. It was the funniest thing I could see for like a solid week or so. But, there's a big but about this, you eventually have to come to realize that it's like you are watching people get into screaming matches against each other. And eventually it's just noise. It's just, I'm going to mudsling and trash for no reason. But I will say, we're not so different. Oh no, let me go back. Oops. We're not so different. Because I'm so happy with this picture. So the thing is that between the headcanon and the power scaler, it's all the enthusiasm and love for the show or medium in general. Wait, I'm sorry. I see you have your hand up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm kind of both.
Sure, yeah. I completely expect that.
And
Yeah.
I think it's really funny when power scalers are so vehemently against headcanon.
Sure.
Because there's literally a term in power scaling for when the author's word and the feat in the series differs.
Sure.
And you ignore the author's word to use that initial statistic.
Kill the author!
And it's like you're ignoring the author's word, yet getting mad at people for doing things that the author hasn't.
Oda is not a reliable source.
Oh, I'm not gonna.
There you go.
I'm not going to deny that.
So I think a lot of the vitriol
Sure.
is pretty funny.
Oh,
But it's
sure.
kind of amusing that, like, you're looking in a mirror
Yes.
and you're screaming at it.
Yes.
It's like,
Absolutely.
oh, okay.
No, I completely agree. And again, that's sort of where I'm trying to come from as well, that it is a bit of both. I love power scaling. I think slander posting is hilarious. And I do also love headcanoning in general, because I think it lends to a lot of great creative output from people of looking at things. But there definitely is some hilarity involved when the two clash. Yeah. Oh, and I see. Sorry, you have a hand up.
I just like recently I've noticed like going through like sports Twitter versus like power scaling Twitter. I'm like, wow, this is really similar. Is this what sports feels like? So I don't even watch JJK. I just like seeing Megumi slander on my timeline. 'Cause it's really
So that's the exact one, actually. So I imagine everyone here may or may not have seen the image of it's Potential Man.
Yes.
Yeah, Megumi Potential Man. So that image and format directly comes from NBA Twitter, because it was about athletes that literally had nothing, that were, this guy will be great in a year when he's on the right team or something like that. But never is, exactly. So, but the thing is, some anime fans hold that and it's like, we throw that on whoever we want to, and it's really funny. But tying back over to here about like where we're coming from, the same point, is that it all comes down to being invested in the stories and the characters. It's someone headcanons a character because they're invested enough in that character to think about them from different perspectives and want to see them in different situations. And the power scaler will defend a character for their life and death because they are so invested in them that they want to see them succeed. And how do you become invested in a character? You have to care about them. How do you care? You have to understand them. And I think...
Sorry, the person who just walked out, you dropped something.
Oh. Good Samaritans in here. We love that. But, and I think big thing coming from this panel that I hope people take into is if you either don't do headcanoning or you don't do power scaling, I think it's important to indulge in all sides of media consumption, because it's important to see perspectives and to try new things and do all like that sort of stuff. Like, when you headcanon, you are able to try new things and potentially improve your own art and how you write, because you're taking something and forming it into something else. And you take those influences. And hey, slander posting is great because you learn to be a very good debater over time. Like, eventually, after all the mudslinging, you will be a very, very good debater. But I actually have a very fun thing here, which is the eventual point of taking your creativity and pulling it so far that the headcanon is just its own thing at some point. So I recently have been following, there is this indie cartoon in production. It's called I Want to Eat Your Guts. So it has this sort of, it's, from what I understand, it is like about two teenagers growing up in early 2000s, has a sort of Daria, MTV 2000s like aesthetic to it. Now, what if I told you that these two were originally AU headcanons of a very, very popular shonen series at some point? Well, it would actually be, they were originally Jotaro and Kakyoin from So, what eventually, I know this artist, their name is Brujo Ari on Twitter and Instagram. For many years, they would make different Jotacak art, and eventually it pulled and pulled and pulled until eventually these two are very, very far removed from what they were originally. And now they have gone to the point where they now have their own original cartoon show in production. And to me, I see that as inspirational because it's something where you, even if you don't necessarily see yourself as a great creator or you're not the best at original content of whatever it may be, you can take your influences from other things and the things you care about and truly make something of it. And again, it just all ties into what I was saying before, to try new things. there's also like a million more instances of where headcanons become their own thing. I know I'm not particularly well versed in the what's it called, the Helliverse Vivzy Pop sphere, but I do know that Alistair was originally some form of MLP OC headcanon thing that eventually became later on to where she now gets to make cartoons for Amazon. So I don't condone Amazon, by the way. Just an example of eventual upward success. But I think it's just a really cool thing to try and write new things. Now, you may have noticed I did leave out one very big part of headcanoning from all this, which is shipping. So, I put it into its own separate thing because shipping in particular sort of gets right at the crossroads of that sort of super major argument, and a lot of the time there will be arguments specifically about if your ship is canon or not. But again, it's a lot of the same things. We see a lot of the same justifications for why people ship certain characters as why we do general headcanoning as a whole. Identity and representation, you get to see certain pairs that normally aren't shown off that often. You can see different gay, lesbian, T for T, ace characters, polyamorous, etc. These are all things that may not always be represented, but through shipping, you can kind of just throw all of your different dolls together and make something happen. And here, admittedly, I know we're getting a bit at the end of this, but does anybody have a particular ship that they really wait? You, Purple. Yeah, you, with that phone up right now. I cannot see what's on your screen right now. Oh, okay. Real. You again, I saw.
Abstract.
Okay. Cool. I see you down there.
This kind is on the point of headcanons and the fandom is becoming real. There's this show. It was previously a book, and before the show came out, tons of people shipped this one pairing of it's called a Zero Crow, and they were shipped. And before and it ended up becoming canon in the show, and that's one of my favorite ships.
Cool. Okay. That I feel like this is one of those ones where you're going to see a lot of instances of, hey, it became real eventually, especially in the modern day, because creators will be looking online at how people write and draw stuff, so they're gonna be like, we like this one the most.
Earlier,
Yes.
the creator background just chronically online.
Yep.
People.
Exactly.
It's hilarious.
So that's what I mean, where this one is one of the ones where you will see that so much more often. I see you as a pink again.
I feel like people nowadays care more about like what's canon and what the author considers canon. Meanwhile, back in the day, people were crack shipping like crazy. Like think about the what was the like Disney crack shipping where it was like the Tangled Dragon.
Oh my god.
Okay. Here's the funny thing. I will be talking about that in a moment. Here, over here. Yep.
Holy tricks.
Ooh, okay. Real. Okay. I see you again, Purple in the back there.
Qualian.
Okay, gotcha. I see you. Oh, white and red. Yes, you.
Jojo and Ghetto.
Fair. I see that one a lot. Yeah. And gray again.
Zane and Caleb.
Gotcha. Okay. More love and deep space. I see one of you, blonde. Yes. Okay, gotcha. Here, over here. Yes, you. Yes. No, yeah, in the back. Yeah. Ooh, okay. And this will be the last one. I see you over there.
Okay, Law Life. Who remembers Death Note? Come on.
Okay. All right. So again, we're gonna go into. We're probably coming here at the end, but I'm gonna quickly rapid fire through some of the fun shipping concepts that I think are most interesting. So, all right. So it was already stated a second ago. We have crap shipping. So generally, it is, from what I remember at least, primarily about shipping characters across different IPs and franchises, though in general it's just things that are not normally going to happen. Like there's an expectation that this is quite literally impossible. these would often get questioned a lot online in like the 2000s, 2010s era due to the literal absurdity of it. But I think it makes sense. It's like the online, like I said it earlier, the literal online equivalent of taking your dolls from different play sets and just putting them together because you like them. It was said a second ago as well about the Jack Frost Elsa. All that one I saw so much. And the thing is, it still happens. Like, it's just not on Tumblr, it's on TikTok with edits. I see so many, like, variations of, even today, Tangled with How to Train Your Dragon. Like, it's...
Gianna, Nanabi, and Cinderella.
Yes, oh, that one was so funny. That was great.
Regina and Roderick.
Oh, yeah, Regina and Roderick, that was a funny one. But yeah, it's like, I think it's very understandable. It's another one of those ones that's like more in the wish fulfillment category, because like, you like these two, throw them together, sure. And then the other one is the Yume ship. Some people will remember when it used to be just called self-shipping. I am very happy. I kind of love the new name of literally just calling it your dream ship because it's it's you or your OC or whatever it may be. Again, really straightforward. Yourself, throw yourself in there. I want that man, I want her, I want whomever. And like, it's very self-serving, and you'll see it a lot for like fanfiction especially. Like the entire genre of YN, like, you know, just your name, like everything. I know I've talked to people about, I forget the site, but where you would go and they would have the links telling you this is your outfit, this is what you were wearing and listening on your iPad when you went out to go see this person. Yeah, Polyvore, that was it, thank you. But that would happen so often. And the funny thing here as well, we're actually going to tie this way back around to Piccolo. One of my favorite ones that I've seen recently is this artist called Mela Toriyama, who is obsessed with Piccolo and literally drew their Yume ship art and gave it to his voice actor to sign, and he absolutely loved it. And I think that is hilarious. It was so cute and fun. But yeah, there's so much to talk about in the terms of fandom spaces and headcanon and how things have changed over the years. And I think more than anything, I want people to feel creatively driven to try everything out, whether it's in the world of shipping or headcanoning or finding new and improved ways to talk trash about another character. So again, we're at the end of this. I think everyone get more creative, have fun with it, have fun being in the space, and I hope that everyone here has a great rest of Ikkicon. Seriously.
Thank you, Balatro.
Thank you, Balatro.
The way I was like,